Hi there, I'm Wendyl Nissen. This is my dog Flo. Say hello, Flo. Say hello. I'm going to give you a reading of my new book, which is called A Natural Year. And for those who don't follow me on Instagram, you probably don't know that it's been held up in a warehouse. See you, Flo. Due to isolation. So my publishers very kindly suggested I read you a chapter from it. It's a book about living up north in the Hokianga for a year. It's got a lot of useful, sustainable stuff, which is how I've been living for about a year. So foraging, growing your own veggies, making yogurt out of chili stalks, getting a sourdough starter out of grapes, all that useful stuff that we need at the moment. But it's also got a lot of stuff in it about aging, about the grey hair, about anxiety and depression that I battle with. So today I'm going to read you my favourite chapter, which is quite political, but I'm sure you'll be all right, which is called Too Old to Be Tidy. Because when you're my age, 58, nearly in July, there are some things that you're just too old for. So here we go. Too old to be tidy. It mystifies me that women spend so much time agonising about ageing, when in my opinion, it is the best place you can be. I'm 57 and I can't think of a happier time in my life. It's true. To me, this time of my life is all about freedom. Being 57 is a chance to be androgynous, to find out that for the first time in my life, what it is like to live like a man. With the lack of estrogen my body produces post-menopause, I'm the closest to a man hormonally that I've ever been. Here's what it feels like. I don't have to turn up for work, even though it feels like the bottom of my uterus is about to fall out. Blood is flowing steadily from between my legs and I'm doubled over in pain. These days, my body is physically consistent and I wake up every day feeling about the same as I did yesterday. Instead of finding that my hormones have other ideas and today I'm going to be dead tired, need a very early night and be very grumpy. I don't have to worry or bother about contraception. Nor do I have to make sure I have enough pads or tampons in my purse to get me through a heavy bleeding day, or just in case my period arrives early or late, or whenever the hell it wants to, while I am out or in a meeting and had no idea this was going to happen. That noise, by the way, are my chickens. Sorry about the disturbance. They make that noise when they've just laid an egg, and then the rooster goes, good on you. So that's what's going on at the moment. I no longer lose my temper over something ridiculous and then realise it was the hormones seizing control of my brain again. What is not to celebrate about that? For the first time in my life, I can pretty much do what I like, when I like, how I like, just like a man. I have been a mother since the age of 24 and worked full-time since I was 19, which is the last time I remember having any valuable freedom. But I had no money then, nor did I own a house, so yay to being 57, right? Our children are adults and living their own lives now and really only need us for occasional advice or emotional support, which is so easy to do on video chats, more so now, right, in lockdown. I can work Zoom, I can work Skype, WhatsApp, you name it. Our family regularly chats online and sends each other cute cat and dog pictures. I would be lost without my video chats with my daughter Hannah, who lives in Sydney, and my birthday is always the better for video chatting with our granddaughters. It's the other rooster. But the daily grind of feeding, clothing and supporting little beings is over. And most importantly, the need to co-parent with your partner is over too. Paul and I always shared any parenting issues, so that would mean the need to agree with each other about a decision we made regarding one of the children. And oh, sweet Jesus, how I'm relieved I am that we don't have to have those bipartisan, delicately objective, grin and bear it discussions anymore. I have daily walks along the beach with the dogs, coupled with some gardening most days, which involves a bit of heavy lifting and digging. I also fish frequently, which is a total body workout by the time I've got the boat off the trailer and back again. I eat a lot of food out of my garden. But best of all, I can't remember what it's like to have a period. They are such a regular and annoying part of your life as a woman that you think you will never forget, but I do. Possessing a body that is incapable of breathing gives me longed for freedom to just be me, which is such an absolute joy after the past 5 years of what has been a fairly intense menopause with its heavy periods, wild mood swings and hot flushes. I still get the hot flushes, but they can't last forever, surely. I have a little time for women who complain about ageing. Getting upset because gravity is pulling your skin, harsh Kiwi sunlight, and naturally thinning skin has made wrinkles on your face and the skin under your arms, tummy, and bum wobble is pointless. They are all normal things. They happen to women when she lives a normal life. Stretch marks, cellulite, grey hair, it's all normal. Having the expectation that we should somehow fix these things is simply setting ourselves up for failure. To me, it is like looking in a mirror. Look at me. And I suddenly want to be a petite Asian woman when actually I'm a largish woman of Scandinavian origin. I'm Danish and Norwegian. Like, how am I going to be tiny and petite? I can't change my DNA or my environment. It would be impossible to change myself to that extent, yet women all over the world are doing the equivalent through surgery every day. I was recently talking to a woman my age who told me that she was going to get a mummy tuck. I sat there listening to her talk, and in my mind I was imagining her being wrapped up in lovely bandages, Egyptian mummy style, which were filled with soothing oils that were going to give her body a real treat, a bit like a full body face mask. But then I slowly realised as she continued talking that she was planning to get her stomach surgically removed so that it was flat like a teenager's. It was called a mummy tuck because most women who aren't celebrities get a bit of sag and fat around their stomachs after they've had babies. I encouraged her to have the surgery because that was what she wanted and needed for her. Just because I'm happy with the way I am doesn't mean all women are, and I totally support any woman to do what she needs to do for her. This year I grew back my grey hair, as you can see. I have very white hair at the front of my head, and every time I had it dyed at the hairdresser's, I could feel it growing back as I paid at the salon reception. More would grow back as I drove home, and then when I got home, there it was. White roots, a mere hour away from being dyed. Finally, I found a hairdresser who agreed to simply add light blonde highlights to the white hair, and gradually it will all blend in. That's a fire. Which it did after about a year. So now I have white, blonde, brown, grey, long hair. I'm happy with it. While we're on the subject of hair and ageing, who was the idiot who made the rule that when a woman gets to a certain age, she needs to cut all her hair off? I've heard it all my life from older women who insist that long hair is ageing on a woman. What utter bullshit. When I see an older woman with a full head of long hair, I think, wow, that's style right there. The reality is that for many women, long hair is finally an achievable thing when the grey hair comes in because it makes your hair thicker and gives it more body. I believe that having long hair means you are resisting joining the army of women with short grey hair who must have all read the same magazine article in the 70s spreading the lie that long hair is ageing. Be an individual. Go long. The other advantage to long hair is that you have several looks. It can be tied up in a ponytail, put in a chic French bun, or just messily tied up in a bun-like structure, as I wear mine most of the time. Or you can have it long and silky, or long and curly, or go with that hippie look you loved in your youth. Why not? Ageing also started a process where I became very happy with my body, which didn't go down very well with Paul. He has and always, Paul's my husband by the way, he has and always has had an aversion to hairy people. So if I had really hairy body when we met, I think it's safe to say we wouldn't have got together. I'm one of those women who, however, who only shaves the bottom half of my legs and my underarms. That's it. I don't pluck my eyebrows or anything else. I figured in my younger days that if you could see my pubes poking out of my bikini bottoms, you were looking too closely. And why should I be worrying about that when all the men around me seem quite happy to wear their budgie smugglers complete with pubic hair on the tops of their legs? But now in my new happy midlife acceptance stage, I decided that the shaving would stop. The only person who saw me close enough to see anything was Paul, and when my leg hairs did grow out, they weren't that noticeable. You're what? Was all Paul said when I told him. Not shaving. It's all part of the repressive control of women, I said. Hair is natural. It is on my legs and underarms for a reason. Did you know that underarm hair is there to encourage the sweat to run along the hairs away from the body to stop bacteria causing odour on the skin? Paul looked at me and I knew we had a problem. Look, I know it's wrong and I know it's not cool, but I'm an old man who was brought up in an era where women shaved, and you know I've got a thing about body hair, he said. Yet here I sit looking at those big hairs on your legs, I replied, the long hair under your arms and on your chest, your beard, and I say nothing. What if I was to say I've got this thing about men with beards, and would it be okay if you were clean shaven? I know, he said, and found something to do far, far away from me on the property. Later I was chatting with a friend and told her of my plans. Do you think you might be taking this all a bit far? She said. I thought you'd be more supportive as a feminist, I replied. Yes, but is this really a feminist issue? Did you start shaving your legs and underarms for men or because you wanted to look nice for yourself? Well, I guess I did it because everyone else did. Yes, but did you like the way your legs and underarms looked? Well, yes, I said, slowly sensing I was losing this fight. Well, there you go then. I don't think it's fair to make all this about Paul. I think if you're honest, you aren't going to stride out in a summer dress and be happy that you've plaited your underarm here and your legs look like they're covered in sandflies. She had a point. And so the new happy middle-aged me still shaves, for now. Another thing I'm not going to change is the shape of my body. I've been a size 16, 18 since I had my last baby in 1998. And despite many attempts to change it with diets, 3 years at the gym with a personal trainer, taking up running and ruining my knees, squeezing into Spanx every time I went out, and fasting for days on end, my body still stays resolutely the same size. 5 years ago, I signed up at my gym to do a 6-week fat to muscle challenge that involved eating 1,400 calories a day, except for the 5th week, where you ate only 800 calories a day. You also did really hard strength workouts 3 times a week with a trainer. It worked. I stopped drinking, I got fit, I got slimmer. The reaction from my women friends was intense. They could not stop going on about how good I looked, and 2 of them even signed up for the same challenge at the gym. Here's the thing, ladies. When you go on and on to your friend about how much weight she has lost, you are basically telling her that you didn't like the way she used to look. Don't do it. Because 9 times out of 10, she will return to that size and know what you were thinking. These days, if someone loses a lot of weight, I don't say anything. Unless, of course, she tells me, in which case I'm very interested and supportive. One of my friends knew how hard it was for me to lose that weight. She was the one I rang from the bath on the 5th week, crying my eyes out because, quite frankly, I was starving and miserable. On the day I finished the challenge, I drank so much vodka, I was sick. I went back to my usual lifestyle, and within weeks, the weight was back. That was the last time I went on a diet because they don't work long term. Having said that, if I was diagnosed with diabetes, as my mother was in her 40s, then I would definitely do Michael Mosley's 800 calorie a day diet for 8 weeks because it's been proven that losing weight can stop type 2 diabetes. So, you got to take it seriously. But for now, I'm healthy, I rarely get colds or flu, and I'm fit enough to stride up my steep paddock every day, lift 20-kilogram bags of chicken feed around the place and dig the garden. I'm happy with that. I'm enjoying watching the slow change on social media, which in the past has done so much damage to women by portraying unrealistic images of how a woman's body should be. Instagram accounts like I Weigh are supporting women to be the size they feel comfortable being, and we are seeing more of a variety of body shapes on TV and in films. Here in New Zealand, Anika Moore and Tammy Nielsen are my idols. They are both beautiful women who wear amazing clothes and never, ever go on social media shaming themselves or others as so many celebrities do. I think these two are just being normal women and mothers for everyone to see. I know they get criticised, which is never easy, so kia kaha to them both. What has really happened to me in my mid-50s is that for the first time in my life, I really don't care what anyone thinks about the way I look, and that includes my husband. Paul and I have been together for 25 years, so if I spend most of my time up north in leggings and a t-shirt with my hair tied back and no makeup, he really doesn't care. Well, I don't think he does. While my mother was living with us, she would look me up and down every day and show her dismay at my appearance, something she's done all my life. Nice hairstyle meant, why haven't you brushed your hair and why are you letting the greys grow through? Grey hair is so aging and it doesn't suit you. Do you like those pants? Meant, you have worn the same pair of black leggings every day this week, you really should make more of an effort. What does Paul say about how you look? Meant, if you don't watch it, your husband will leave you for a much better turned out woman. In my mother's world, men leave you for better turned out women. I may have once pointed out to her that if I was married to a man who left me for a better turned out woman, then I would be well rid of him, as his life was obviously dominated by looks rather than the substance of an intelligent, quite frankly, very entertaining woman, such as myself. Needless to say, Mum wore makeup, dyed her hair, and never forgot to clip on her large costume jewellery earrings and swipe on a bright coral lipstick every day, right up to the day she had her stroke. All this effort when she was living in the country really left the house and saw only me, Dad, and Paul on a daily basis. You just never know what might have happened. If that lipstick and those earrings had remained in her dresser drawer, Dad, at the age of 86, might just have got an idea in his head to find a better turned out woman. Should Paul ever decide to leave me for a better turned out woman, I know that my mother, even in death, will be delighted that she was right. I'm also not a big fan of sexy lingerie. Surprise. In the tiny nanosecond Paul gets to see me undressed, I'm sure he won't notice the fact that I've started buying my undies a size bigger, because everyone knows they're just more comfortable that way. Yes, they're nana undies, but I'm a nana. And now I'm not forever pulling them out of my butt crack or having them chafed because they're too tight around my legs, or sweating because they are made of disgusting polyester lace, or itching for that matter too. I've never worn a bra, despite a doctor once telling me that if I didn't start wearing one, my boobs would sag so low, no man would find me attractive. This was the same doctor who delivered my last baby and called Paul over to improve the job she was doing of stitching me up down there. Do you think it's tight enough? She said. Paul just looked at her in horror, as did I. I didn't take her advice and resolutely continued to be braless, something no one ever seems to notice, and just so you know, they're still holding their own. As I'm writing this, I realise how sad it is that I had to wait until my mid-50s to be free. That all women from a very early age spend far too much time worrying about curves, cellulite, wrinkles, hair in the wrong places, the colour of their skin, the texture of their skin, the colour of their hair, their height, the length of the legs, the shape of the bottom, the size of their labia, the curve of their stomach, the shape of their eyes, the length of their eyelashes, the size and perkiness of their breasts, the size of their nose, the colour and shape of their fingernails and toenails, the roughness of their elbows and dryness of their hands, and whether they're attractive to men. I tried to bring up my daughters with a positive attitude about their bodies and tried not to diet or talk about losing weight around them as my mother did with me all my life. But I don't think they are immune to many of the things I've listed. To achieve that result, I would have had to have locked them away from all media and my mother, who always criticised body shape. It has also taken me all this time to realise that it is okay to do what you are good at, not what you think you should do. Last year I finished working for Radio Live on my own daily afternoon show, a job that just about killed me. I like being on the radio, I just don't love it. And to do a radio show, you really have to love it, like my friend Kerry McIver, who is so good at it and so loved by her listeners. The radio lesson taught me some things I could have possibly learned a lot earlier than in my mid-50s, that taking a job because you're offered it, which is flattering, and it pays well, is not always a good idea. Every job I've taken because the money was good has not panned out for me. Instead, I think we should do work that makes us happy and pays the bills. I have no dreams of being super rich, so instead I work for enough money, which combined with Paul's income means we can pay our way in life. Leaving radio also meant that finally after 5 years, Paul and I could make the decision to live up north here in the Hokianga permanently, to wake up every morning in our home and make the most of the lifestyle we have created. I was back in Auckland one week when I found myself going through my wardrobe, taking out all my clothes and putting them in cardboard boxes. Out went my many tailored jackets and skirts, evening dresses, silk shirts and high heels. What are you doing? Said Paul, who was a big fan of being tidy and organising stuff. Are you okay? I'm throwing out my corporate wardrobe, I said with pride, as I tossed the fourth full box into the hallway. That way I'll never be tempted to accept a stupid big job again because I won't have anything to wear. Of course, that was ridiculous. Every woman knows that when you get a big fancy job, you immediately go out and buy some new big fancy clothes. But for some reason, the clear out was cathartic, and I believed what I was saying. As I threw out the clothes, I realised that they represented thousands of dollars I had spent on designer labels, which in some cases I wore only once. Some of these dresses cost $800 and really rarely left the wardrobe. What a complete waste when I could have bought 2 gals for that. I took all the clothes to Rainbow Youth, where I hoped they were being put to good use and enjoyed. Then I found myself in my kitchen up north, gazing out of the window at nothing in particular, and thinking that I should probably clean off our massive Kauri dining table of all the bits and pieces I had put on there during the week. Some wool I was knitting into kitchen cloths, some books I was flicking through for some column research, a pair of leggings I'd got a hole in and needed mending, a recipe book I was going to cook dinner from, and a vase of dead flowers that had looked lovely a week ago. Just a thought, said Paul, who had also surveyed the messy table. If you put stuff away as you go, things would be a lot tidier. I looked at him. Any sense that starts with just a thought and is uttered by a man tends to piss me off. You know, as you finish a project, you could tidy up, then move on to the next one, instead of having them all together in one place causing a mess. I kept looking at him. So what do you think? Paul has known me for 25 years, and it would be fair to say that my untidiness has always annoyed him a bit. So this speech was not something I hadn't heard before, an attempt to gently nudge me into a new behaviour that would fit better with his understanding of how life should be. It had worked a little because I no longer throw my clothes on the floor, opting for a chair instead. But this time he was talking to a woman who had just thrown out her entire corporate wardrobe and was coming to terms with a new freedom. Okay, so I'm only going to say this once. I told him. I'm a 57-year-old woman who has been untidy all her life. Blame my extremely untidy mother, but that is how I am. And I'm here to tell you that at 57 it is highly unlikely that I will be changing how I am because I like who I am now. Well, of course, I like you too, protested Paul. Oh, I just lost the camera. Let's just see if I can get you back. Hopefully we're still running. Yeah, sorry. Well, of course I like you too, protested Paul. Don't interrupt me, I continued. I like being untidy. It suits me. It's how I operate. It's my creative process. I know you would like me to change this habit, but how do you think that's working out for you? It's been nearly 25 years and I'm as untidy today as the day I met you, so how about we just let that one go? Paul found something else to do far, far away from me on the property, and I stood in the kitchen and realised that I'd finally accepted myself and was quite happy with that. Some women I know have gone into mourning about their loss of fertility and the fact that men no longer whistle at them because they are old. Are you kidding me? Do you really rate yourself on how men react to you and therefore find that in your 50s men not whistling at you means you're no longer attractive? I love being unattractive. It's a personal goal. I love the fact that men no longer ogle me or try to chat me up. I've always thought those men are dickheads anyway. If I want a man to tell me I'm attractive, I'll let him know. Until then, shut up. A letter to The Guardian piqued my interest because the writer was a woman in her 60s who was having problems with men, particularly her friends' husbands hitting on her. She described herself as a 60-year-old grey-haired woman, reasonably fit and not ugly, but not particularly beautiful. I don't wear sexy clothing and I can't fill a AA bra. I've never been tempted to cheat on my husband of 30-plus years. The reply from the agony aunt Mariella Fostrup was, nice problem to have. Swatting off amorous men is no hardship at any age. What the fuck? So a woman who is happily married is supposed to feel flattered that men are hitting on her and be glad of the attention. I was appalled by Mariella's reply, especially when she went on to suggest that the woman may be one of those women whose only way of relating to men is with the promise of something more. I think this woman who doesn't think she's particularly beautiful is simply enjoying her life and the confidence of her new freedom brings with it. And what is more attractive than a woman with something to say, happy in her skin, in a devil-may-care attitude? I've been spending a lot of time lately wondering why women have been encouraged to rate themselves on how attractive they are to men. From the time we are little girls, we are rewarded if boys like us, and then later, as women, if men find us hot. Our girlfriends would congratulate us if a man was attracted to us. Let's not forget that most of the time, a man's way of showing you they think we're beautiful is by verbally complimenting us, nice tits, or grabbing us on the arse, or just staring at us long enough to make us feel really uncomfortable. All of these things I've always found repulsive and have said so. I was never one of the popular girls with men. I understand that centuries ago women had no choice but to marry a man to look after her for life. But in these modern times, at least in the West, is it really such a great idea to meet a guy at a party, usually when you're drunk, go out with him for a while, then commit to spending your entire life with him, putting up with his various personality defects as he puts up with yours? Surely we are all individuals who deserve the chance to be the best person we are, unencumbered by another person's expectations, limitations, and drawbacks. Actress Diane Keaton recently said that she's quite happy without a man in her life, and this is a woman who dated Warren Beatty and Al Pacino. She told InStyle magazine that she hasn't been on a date in 35 years, and that's the way she likes it. I'm 73, and I think I'm the only one in my generation, and maybe before, who has been a single woman all her life. I don't think it would have been a good idea for me to have married. I'm really glad I didn't. Keaton has adopted 2 children. I'm part of a partnership that has worked. I'm part of a partnership that has worked hard to pay off mortgages and ensure that I can now pull back my career so that it consists of writing books, columns, and occasional magazine articles if I feel like it. Well, actually, no, because Bauer magazine's just closed, so I don't actually have that work anymore. I also know that my generation was raised by parents who had fathers who worked and stay-at-home mothers, and along with that came a strong emphasis and expectation on being attractive to men, because that is how you hooked them into marrying you and supporting you and your children. My mother would always ask me whether my daughters had found themselves a husband yet. No matter how many times I tried to explain that women these days don't need husbands to have a good life, she never quite got it. As Cher famously once said when her mother advised her to marry a rich man, "Mother, I am a rich man." I'm certainly not one of those women who spend a lot of time pressuring their children to have grandchildren either. I personally think that for a woman, a life free of children and husbands is a great one to aspire to. And the science backs me up on this. The American Time Use Survey compared levels of pleasure and misery in unmarried, married, divorced, separated, and widowed people. It found that childless, unmarried women are the happiest subgroup in the population. I recently met a nun in her 80s and found myself envying her life, even if some of it was spent in a silent order. How lovely to never have babies or wayward teenagers, never have enough sleep as you juggle career and sick children, to just look the way you were meant to look and not feel pressure to change it, to be just you and do good works. Having children is wonderful, and I would never be without ours, who bring me so much joy. But if I'm honest, they also brought me a lot of pain, worry, and the need to work bloody hard to support them all. I love being in a committed relationship and having the support and companionship that brings me. But that is what I was raised to do and what women have known forever. What if it became okay to be a single woman and reach your 40s without either kids or a partner and not have people pity you for supposed failings because you couldn't find a man? What if single, childless women were accepted in society and celebrated for what they can offer when they don't get held back by husbands or children? So what if a CEO is unmarried and childless? Good on her. I would really love that acceptance to happen in my lifetime. I read an interview with writer and director Sally Wainwright, who was responsible for some great television, including Happy Valley, Last Tango in Halifax, and Gentleman Jack. She started off writing for soaps like Coronation Street and said it had taken her a long time to get where she is because women are second-class citizens to a lot of men. And she's right, as much as we hope that in 2020 that wouldn't be the case. We all know women who are living in relationships with men that are not good and have probably tried to get those women to leave them. The man abuses her in some way, whether it's emotionally, verbally, or physically. The man contributes little to the relationship, yet the man gets to be in that relationship because some women, even in this day and age, cannot find a will or a way to get out of it. And we've all known older women who have found a new lease on life when their husbands have died. They take up Zumba, they travel because he never wanted to, or they run for council because he wouldn't let her. I say, why wait until he's dead? What is stopping women from using the good 30 years they have in their older years to do stuff they want to do, to be the woman they always wanted to be? If your husband or partner is holding you back, leave him, or just leave him behind. I've always told my kids that being in a relationship should make your life better, not worse, because it's amazing how many times a perfectly happy woman gets hooked up with some loser and spends her life being miserable. Again, this is where middle-aged should be freeing. You don't have to stay in a relationship for the sake of the children anymore. You are earning your own money, or could if you wanted to, so you can probably afford to live on your own. You are still sexually active and would have no trouble finding a partner to enjoy that with. I can only think that it is society's pressure not to be single. A sad old lady with no husband. What a shame she could never find a man. Give me a break. How terrible. Sorry about the flies. How terrible that this still happens and women wake up every day to men who treat them as second-class citizens. A note. I know that some of you will be reading this and think, this is Wendyl trying to tell us that she's leaving her husband. It's not. Because Paul has always let me be the woman I wanted to be. We've both had to make sacrifices along the way for family, career, or finances, but we have always supported each other to be the person we each want to be, which at times has been a challenge as we've taken on different career paths and supported each other through them. The woman who lies in bed every morning sipping her tea while Paul sips his coffee next to me is the same woman who would be lying in bed every morning on her own, sipping her tea, if I'd never met him. She'd be a lot worse off for never knowing him and would have had to make her own tea, but she'd still be the same woman. As well as being tidy, here are some other things I'm too old to be. To be mansplained. If a man, usually a pale, stale male, decides to lecture me on the world as he sees it with a definite flavour of patronisation, I won't be the little woman listening out of politeness. I will simply walk away. I won't even make an excuse like, oh, I'm sorry, I need to go and find my will to live. Instead, I just turn around and walk away. Rude, but it serves two purposes. One, it doesn't mean I get angry and upset, which is really important to me. Two, it teaches the little shit that there's no longer an audience freely available for his ego. The best thing you can do to a man like that is ignore him. I'm too old to be open-minded. Not to be open-minded, sorry. I'm blessed with 5 children who all follow world events closely and keep up to date with various life philosophies. I will often say to one of them, so tell me how that works. They would then patiently explain all the genders that you can be now, or the strategy behind whatever political or social policy issue I'm struggling with, and I'll be all the better for it. I'm too old to tolerate racist or sexist, no matter how casual. My younger self would argue that these people, would argue with these people because I believed there was hope, and if you just keep talking, you might change their mind. You won't. In my experience, you can't change a sexist or a bigot's mind, and I'm not going to give them the privilege of giving their misguided bullshit any airtime. Again, I don't make an excuse. I just turn and walk away. I saw this in action in Venice once, where two gorgeous young girls were taking pictures of each other in a piazza, as you do in this Instagram age. Two young Italian men were hitting on them really loudly, and in the end very physically leaning into their faces and putting themselves in the way of their shots. The two girls ignored them solidly for 10 minutes, until the men gave up and left, shouting obscenities and glaring at them for being so rude as to resist their masculinity. I watched the girls after the men had walked away, and they just kept on taking pictures. There wasn't even a pause where they went, phew, they got rid of those pests. They just didn't let them register. Please let this be the future for all women, I thought. The end, that was long. I hope you got through to the end. Thank you for listening to my reading. I'm in my favourite sunroom where I do all my reading, which is why we have flies freely flying through. There seems to be an influx of them just in this autumn weather, I think, because it's still quite warm. And I hope the roosters weren't too distracting. And I haven't had any visits from the dogs or the cats, unfortunately. Maybe next time I do a reading. So just so you know, that's from Natural Year. Hopefully it'll be out soon and you can all rush off to the bookshop and support your local bookshop and buy it. It is also available as an ebook, but people like to hold it. And I have been actually using it a lot, and it's getting quite dirty, and I love that about a book. You know, it's got a coffee stain on it, or a bit of flour, a bit of chocolate smudged on a page. So yeah, maybe hold out and get the real thing. Thanks for listening.